Okay, here we go. Recording. Welcome to the second episode of Sithposting live. Even though we're not live, it just sounds better.
Right.
I'm Tia, and this is Brittany. And again, second episode of Sithposting, and we have an actual title this time.
I know I was gonna say because last time we were sitting there like, what are we even gonna call it? What are we
I
even gonna do?
I was editing the first episode, and literally I said, "Yeah, we don't even have a title for this, but it'll
Yeah, we'll
come."
have it by the time it posts, or else it's
Yeah.
just gonna be unlisted podcast name would be the name of the channel.
I like Sith posting a lot, though.
I
I
do
think that's cool.
too.
So, how are you doing?
I'm living it. I'm alive.
I'm alive too. I would say that um it's later in the day than when we like recorded our first one, so sorry about that.
Oh, no. You mean Brittany's sorry because she was like, oh, we could do it during the week instead of the weekend.
Yeah, I feel like episode 3 will definitely be recorded on the weekend. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously there's a few things Star Wars related that we're going to talk about. I will say that yesterday, for some random reason, so really quick, I know that I showed you like a ton of stuff from the Clone Wars, right? You obviously know that
Have
they're
you? Have you?
so obviously, there's like 7 seasons, yada yada yada. Can I tell you that when Polly and I were first watching the show, I think we had finished it at this point, and I was like desperate for more. And as I'm like on Disney Plus, there was like another thing that said Clone Wars, and I was like, huh. Long story short, it was like a movie that they had done first. Like they had done like a short
When?
like it wasn't like obviously in the theaters, right? But it was like they
Yeah.
had did like a Clone Wars movie that introduced Ahsoka, Rex, and everything, and I didn't know that, so it was like weird going back after you knew everything that happened to like watch it.
You were like, who are you people? Like, who
Well, you
are
see,
you?
well, you see like Ahsoka all like young and everything,
Yeah.
and it's funny because originally Ahsoka was supposed to be Obi-Wan's Padawan and not Anakin's.
I know. It's funny. Like, whenever this show came out, I think I was in at the end of junior high or in high school. I know it was around that time frame. And I remember my ex, the now ex, he would watch it all the time, and I'd be like, "Who are these people?" Like Ahsoka and stuff. Because
Uh-huh.
I was like, because they had added so much stuff afterwards
Yeah.
that, like, I love Ahsoka. Like, I'm glad for all the additions, but I sit there sometimes and I think back where I'm like, because really it was just the Clone Wars show that she came in at, right? That made her technically canon.
Yeah, because the show came out after Revenge of the Sith, right? So like
Yeah.
already after Anakin fell, Order 66 happened, then they were like, "Oh, and here's a show that explains what happened within the 3 years in between the Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith." And you're like, wait, like as a very like non-Star Wars fan at the time, you're like, who is Ahsoka? Anakin had a Padawan? Who were any of these
Yeah.
people?
I had that exact moment, which, a lot of people say that they just wish if Anakin hadn't said, "I thought you would be taller," to
Oh yeah.
General Grievous, that we could have had an interaction, but because it was canon that they had never met until that moment, I was like,
But
we could have
it's
made something happen, right?
But it's funny you mention that because not I was gonna say not to hate on the acolyte, but I could always hate on the acolyte, but like the fact that in the acolyte they didn't do because like the how in the first no, it was Attack of the Clones. No, sorry, my bad. I'm like going in the Phantom Menace. In the Phantom Menace is when they're like Qui-Gon's like, "Oh, I fought a Sith." And what's his name? Kiadi Mundi, the dude with the big head, is like,
Yeah.
the Sith have been extinct for millennia. And but then in the Acolyte, which takes place only like 85 years prior to that,
Yes.
they're dealing with Sith, and Kiadi like knows about it. So my point in bringing that up is like the Acolyte does such a bad job in like maintaining canon. Meanwhile, Dave Filoni, who's the guy behind the Clone Wars, was like, we cannot have Anakin and Grievous interact because of one effing line.
Yeah, right. I gotta say too, like, how bad is it to have like the one person that said that line in the movie be the one back
who
then?
who like clearly knew that they were like dealing with Sith or
Maybe they
Sith
did it on
adjacent.
purpose though. Like, so it kind of plants it in your head where you're like, did they knowingly know that something was happening, but their own hubris got ahead of them?
I
Who
don't know. It's
knows?
like I don't like, not that I'm like, obviously I'm much more of a fan of the Sith than I am the Jedi, but I'm also not this person who's so jaded about the Jedi where I'm like, actually the Jedi are the villains. I do think that they're like naive enough, as you said, to like obviously miss all of the signs that were right there.
Right.
But I'm also not like the Sith are actually good and the Jedi are bad. It's like, no, no, no. The Sith are very bad. I recognize
Right.
that.
Well, there's sometimes like I think where I know some of the books would probably go more in depth, but now like what's technically canon anymore? And that's
Yeah.
kind of hard too, where it's like, how much does canon matter except for what comes to movies and everything? Because technically, the Old Republic is no longer canon.
Right. Like all of that, like pretty much all of the books, which are now considered legends, those are not canon anymore. It's like
They're
the only
canon
thing
to us.
to me, yeah, 100%. Like Darth Malgus still exists in my mind, you know? But
You
it's
think
like,
that city is such a fanboy of them, and they're just gonna be like,
no, throw
throw
him away.
away.
So it's like the movies, the shows, and like so those are canon. Um, and then now they come out with these other books called like the High Republic, which takes place like within like the last. It takes place, I think, within like, eh, sorry, like the years before the Phantom Menace. So like at the point where like they think the Sith are gone, there's really like not a lot of threats, and like the Jedi are at their most peaceful time, and that's why like they kind of say, oh, the Jedi kind of like lost their like fighting and everything because they really had no threat at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, those books, the High Republic, that's canon now. I
Yeah.
heard that they're quite boring. I haven't read any of them.
But the problem I have sometimes is like, especially because, and I'd have to go more in depth in it because I don't want to make like statements that I don't
Yeah.
actually know. But I sit there and wonder sometimes because of like, is there only Jedi? Like, how do the Jedi basically monopolize having the Force and knowing how to use it? Because they're like, oh, well, they have to be taught when they're young because if they're not young, they'll lose it and they'll never be able to do it again. Or at least that's how they act in some of the things I've read or looked at.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, well, how did the first Jedi come around then? Like, how did this
Oh
come
yeah.
around? Like, well, what do you mean there's not a subsector of like Jedi? Like, why is that? And then, like, the Sith brain goes, they're just trying to keep everybody controlled. They want to be the only people with the Force. Because and what's funny is they have that like almost like they have to be taught young or they can't do it. And I'm like, Ray? Luke, all of them were like adults by
Older.
the time, by the like young adults. Like I would say like probably like in the 16, 18 or a little bit older range. And I'm like, how are you all older and know it? Like, what's the truth anymore?
Well, Ray is just like written that way, but
That is
uh
true.
I mean, though, so by the way, there's like for our listeners and everything or our viewers, there's a page called or a YouTube channel called The Stupendous Wave that literally like does like whole like hours long videos on like the history and like the Jedi. I'm not even gonna pretend to
I'm
like
gonna have
know.
to listen to this. I'm gonna have
It's
to listen.
it's so informative. I'm not even gonna pretend like I know a whole ton of it, but I do know that at some point within the Jedi's history that they were allowing like older individuals because Darth Malik, when he was Alec, was an adult.
Sorry, I'm just
When
giggling that he added an M to his name, and he's like, he had a Dragon Ball Z
yeah.
Majin Buu moment. Literally put the M on his forehead and said, "I'm evil now."
Right, right, yeah, but when he was a Jedi and he was brought into the Jedi, he was not a child. He was like an adult at that point. So at some point they were allowing them, but then I guess like they were like, oh, that gives them more time to like be attuned maybe to the dark side. So we got to get them when they're like really, really young and everything, which is a little problematic, obviously.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like popping candy. It kind of feels like they'll be. I don't know. You're kind of just raising them all in like that one set way, and if you don't follow this one set way, you basically get kicked out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And then also again, like if you go into Legends, like they weren't like as strict at some point with the no attachments rule, even though by the time I think Satil Shan had Theron, it was kind of at that. That's why she had to have Theron in secret. Um,
Oh
but then
boy.
there, I know, but then there's this one Clone Wars book. I forget what it's called, but I think that is Legends technically, even though it's a Clone Wars book, because again, it was before the acquisition by Disney. But like in it, Anakin meets like Jedi who are like a different like sect of Jedi who are in like relationships and everything. And he's like confused because he's like, well, why do we work with them and they're technically Jedi, but they can be in relationships, but I gotta like keep my relationship with Padme a secret, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense because I remember whenever, which I know technically, blah blah blah, canon, legend.
Yeah.
Whenever I was doing basically like a D&D campaign, but it was Star Wars, one of the things I had to do a lot of like looking into was their like the medical Jedi because it was so rare
Oh
that people
yeah.
were able to heal because we saw where it made what's her name?
Oh, Bear's Offie.
Yes, it made her older, right? And
Yeah.
like appear older because she's given up that part of herself and that like they had to be very much like protected because they were a basically it's like a medic in any war, even though you're not
Yeah.
supposed to go for them, they were very much in danger. But there was some that like they didn't have to pass the usual tests because they could basically stop and being part of the medical sect. They didn't have to pass all the trials
Hmm.
to pass from a Padawan to like a full-fledged Jedi or a Jedi Knight. They could just basically go from like almost like youngling to Jedi. It was very weird. I'm trying to remember exactly how because I know I'm rambling a little. It was something odd where it was like they could go through the trials and they could still do everything, but if they were healers, there were certain parts that they could just skip.
I remember you telling me about this, and I like haven't personally looked into it just because like I haven't, but I like
Yeah,
believe you obviously because that would make
because
sense,
I want to know
right?
where I read that. I hope that wasn't just like, oh, we only made it for the tabletop version, or we only did it in this one, or like, some people will do like their fan fiction lore, but they have like wiki pages for it, and you're like, this is canon, and you're like, wait a second, where am I? What wiki is this?
No, 100%. But it would make sense because like let's say like in the Clone Wars, right? They were like speeding along like from youngling to Padawan to Jedi. They were like speeding through the trials whereas like years prior it would be like a slow gradual thing and everything like
They were
one
like babies raising babies.
well, for an example, in that one episode in the Clone Wars where a Grievous layer, right? Where like Kit Fisto and his like former Padawan go to like go against Grievous. if you watch, like, we watched it, his former Padawan was like young and like clearly inexperienced, like
He was too high-headed, and
right, but
sorry,
they
I
were
started
rushed.
giggling because Grievous is
I
so good. He was so good in that episode.
so
Grievous
good.
Defender. He ends up on all the Hear Me Out cakes in my book.
Listen, he like, and that's another thing if you want to talk about Legends versus canon, like his Legends backstory was so good and like such like kind of like why I think he's a sympathetic character, even though he like mows down Jedi and Padawan, is
He
because of
gets a
his
pass.
I you know
Padawan, collecting their brains. So fucked up. I'm sorry.
um
Tia's sitting here in her head, like, do I need to edit that out later? Like, do I need to get rid of this?
speaking about characters who like low key have a sympathetic pass, I'm super excited, and I believe you are as well, that we are getting a Maul animated series.
Very, very much so. You can't have this man only be used in like one thing. And it's like, oh, also on that note, the guy that voices him is going to get to actually play Darth Maul, isn't he? Like, I can't remember for what show. It's one of the newer ones coming out. Sorry, he's not playing Maul. He's playing the son.
Oh, I think for Ahsoka season two,
Yeah, I think the guy that voices Maul, I
Sam
think,
Witwer.
which I think he's also the voice of the son
Yes,
in the animated series, but he also voices Maul.
he voices Maul, he voices the son. He actually also played oh God, what is his name? Darth Vader's apprentice.
Star Killer. Yeah,
Yes,
who is
yes.
not canon, and
Is not
everybody says, well, they just can't make Star
they
Killer
can.
canon
He's so OP.
because he's so OP. Because he pulled a Star Destroyer. Is that what I'm thinking of out of the sky?
Yeah, like
But then people are
nothing.
like, "Oh, well, Vader wouldn't be able to do that." I'm like, dude, did you see how easily he pulls? Like, no effort. Like, you think if it was him and Star Killer like having a freaking ship pulling competition, you think he's gonna beat Vader? And also, Anakin being deep, 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 deep down in there, he is too competitive. He would bring it out.
It's fun. I don't think they could ever make Starkiller canon. They'd be like, oh my God. Oh my God, what do we do here?
I know. Ahsoka's the only apprentice.
But I do love whatchamacallit it, that Sam Witwer. He is so talented, right? Because like Darth Maul was already a cool character in the Phantom Menace, but then it's like you thought he was killed, and you're like, okay, I guess that's like it, right?
Yeah.
Obi-Wan chops him in half. That's it. And then for them to like bring him back in the Clone Wars, give him this fantastic voice actor who like Sam Witwer is also really like knowledgeable on Star Wars. So that's also really cool.
I
I think
want
you
to
should
meet this man. If he's at Comic-Con one year, I'm there. I'm like, Tia, I'm sorry.
Let's go.
I'll sleep on the floor. Like, I'll get a hotel nearby. I gotta see this man.
Yeah, I mean he's so good, and I'm so happy we're getting this like Maul animated series. And apparently it takes place like after Clone Wars, before we see him in Rebels. And they said that he is going to be training a Twi'lek apprentice that everyone's like, is it going to be Darth Talon? And I'm like, I hope so. That's going to be so dope.
There's these two cosplayers that I can't think of what their names are, but the dude looks like Darth Maul. Like when he does the
Really?
cosplay, oh my gosh. Tia, I will have to show you pictures. I will have
Mm.
to send them to you because he looks just like Maul. And because there's that girl that was cosplaying Ahsoka and walked up and basically
I've
they're
seen
like,
that. I've seen
yeah.
that. It was so good.
But there is a lady that was cosplaying Darth Talon, and all the
It's
comments were like, "That Darth Maul is so cool." Whoa, whoa, whoa! Who's that? Who's that? Like, because they look so much like the characters.
I've seen that, and it's like that is such great cosplay. Like honestly, I like but what was I gonna say? No, super excited about that one. I do wish like so I'm also going to tie this into the other thing I wanted to talk about, which was Tales of the Underworld, right? And but what you gonna call it? Like really quick. So as you know, Disney bought out Lucasfilm. So the show got canceled after season 6. Then we have season 7. But the thing was is that there was like other episodes that were planned that never happened. A few of them like kind of got mixed around. So it's like Dark Disciple is all about the Asajj Ventress stuff that was supposed to be episodes. They did this one really great Grievous thing that actually is fully animated and voiced, and you can find it on YouTube. It's just not finished,
I need to
but
go find it.
it's really good. It's like this whole like kyber crystal, and it actually shows like Grievous in a really like he's so badass in it. But anyway, another thing was supposed to be this thing called the Son of Dathomir, which has been adapted into a comic, and it was all about Darth Maul reuniting with Mother Talzin, fighting against Sidious and Grievous and Dooku, and it's like so badass. And Grievous kills Mother Talzin in it. Anyway, I wish they would animate that, but obviously it takes place in the Clone Wars, so we're not going to see that in this show since it takes place after Clone Wars.
They have
But
so much material that they can do. They
it's
have so
so
much. And I keep seeing something about like there was like a Grievous thing. I keep like every time I get like a Star Wars TikTok when it has Grievous in it, there is like a what's the word for it? You know, like there's like the highlighted little like search above, and it keeps
yeah.
saying like Grievous May 15th. And I'm like, what is this?
I've been seeing that too, and there's nothing
Hi,
that I
lady.
see. I know. Can you hear her barking?
I heard one singular bark and I was like, I know that little monster anywhere.
But yeah, I don't know what that is. I've been seeing that too. There's nothing that I see that indicates that we're getting anything on May 15th about Grievous, but you know, I'm open as a Grievous fan. I'm open. But um
Sexy
but
robot man.
I know. I
Right?
um so then the other thing I wanted to talk about, which I know you haven't seen it, but I also know that you're okay with me spoiling things.
Yes.
So we recently got Tales of the Underworld, right? And the Tales of have been a series from Star Wars where it's like 6 episodes, they're super short, and they do typically like 2 characters and they'll focus like 3 episodes on a background of each, right? The first one was Tales of the Jedi, where we got a really awesome like Ahsoka backstory, an amazing Dooku backstory. Then we had Tales of the Empire, which gave like an okay backstory on this character Morgan Elsbeth. I don't even remember. The best thing about those was like the 5 seconds that Grievous was in, but it gave a really good story on Barriss Offee, right? So that's Tales of the Empire. Now we have Tales of the Underworld, which followed Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane. They were so good, Brittany. And
I need to see it. I've
but
been seeing so many TikToks. People are like in love with it, but they made them hate Cade.
well, all right. So I'm gonna like focus on Asajj first, and then we're gonna talk about Cad Bane really quick. But so the thing is like if you just watch the Clone Wars, right? The last time you saw Asajj Ventress, she, you know, obviously was betrayed by Dooku. She was now like pseudo bounty hunter, and she was helping Ahsoka when Ahsoka was like wrongly accused of being like a terrorist.
Yeah, that'll do it. That will do it.
And then the next time, again, if you're just watching the animated stuff, right? Then the next time we see her is in a single episode of The Bad Batch where she's like kind of like a lot softer, still like rough around the edges, but helping like figure out whether Omega has like force powers. So that's like if you just saw the animation. But there's a canon book called Dark Disciple that was supposed to be like a few episodes in the like the canceled 7th season, right? And in the book Dark Disciple, a Jedi, Quinlan Voss, is tasked with killing Dooku because at this point the Jedi are like, we know it's wrong, but we got to take Dooku out. So Quinlan Voss goes undercover. He gets Asajj's help because he's like, you know Dooku the best. They end up falling in love. It ends up like softening like Asajj Ventress, and she ends up dying protecting Quinlan. And so If you read the book and then you saw Bad Batch, you're like, how the hell is she alive? I thought she died. Anyway, Tales of the Underworld starts with explaining obviously Night's sister voodoo magic. That's how she's alive. I'm okay with it.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Fair enough. It's a nice thing. Is it anything groundbreaking, her episodes? No, it just explains how what her life is in the Empire. She essentially adopts a Jedi Padawan on the run. It's very cute. It's like Asajj
Is that
gets the
the
redemption.
is that the is the I've seen some clips. Is her apprentice like the kind of like floral race, or that use the whips, or is it the they seem like
No, it's a human male. It's a human
okay,
male,
okay, that's what
so
I was trying to figure out because I saw the boy too, and I was like, but in my head, I was like, I don't remember if like what they sounded like or what they fully
mm,
looked like, just the size of them, and so it's
yeah.
like that they were like shorter.
Yeah, no, it's a human male that's like essentially, and I don't know, I like Asajj now. She went from this like, super angry like person who's still rough around the edges, but like softening and like essentially sees like how both sides were manipulated. So I thought they were great, right? I loved it. I
Yeah,
love Asajj Ventress. She's one of my favorite characters. And I think this perfect blend of like, she's not a Jedi, but she's not Sith. She's just her. And the Night
it's
Sisters are
like
cool.
she if somebody called her a gray Jedi, she'd be probably so angry. She's just like, I'm
Right?
just me, I'm me, and I so happen to be force sensitive. She'd be like, why we gotta have labels for everything, huh?
Right, right. But those are good. The Cad Bane episodes are so unexpected. You said that you had heard that it made people like hate him. Is that what you said?
Yeah, they were like very like, man, they're like, he's still badass, but
Well, so obviously I'm going to spoil it and I'm going to spoil it. So if you're okay with it,
a
uh,
spoiler warning goes across.
okay, so Brittany had to bow out and everything, but I did want to continue talking about the Cad Bane version, like the Cad Bane episodes of Tales of the Underworld really quick, which in my opinion were like when I first heard that they were doing Cad Bane, I was like, huh, what are we going to learn about him? Because obviously from what we've seen in the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, he was this very much not cold, but typical Western bad guy, right? Hardened by his lifestyle and all that. And I certainly didn't expect for his backstory to have this like really tragicness to it. I don't think that it say redeemed his character or anything like this, or even made his character sympathetic, because we see at the end that Cad Bane turned into the hardened self that he is and continued that way. But to have it where, and obviously he had to start from somewhere to get to where he is now. So to start from this like street urchin sort of kid and then see this very like, and when I say typical, it's not in a bad way, right? But to start in this like street urchin sort of way and have this best friend and have this like very like familiar tale of like one goes to turn his life around, even join the law, and then see Cad Bane, follow the path that he followed and all of that. And I was not expecting the end, right? The end of that where the friend is killed. You find out that Cad Bane has a son out there. It was very tragic. I love the Western vibes that it gives that always are kind of there whenever Cad Bane is on screen. It was very, very good. It was really unexpected. And that's like what my favorite thing about these tales of shows are. It's just how unexpected they are. I certainly never expected the Dooku background that we got in Tales of the Jedi. I never expected to like Barriss Offee from Tales of the Empire. So for them to give us this in Tales of the Underworld of Cad Bane. Loved it. I want more Tales of course, if you look online, you see a lot of people saying that they want more Tales of and they want more clones. I am one of them. I want more clones. Let's do Tales of the Clones. I need to know what happened to Wolf. Like, obviously we see Wolf in the Bad Batch, right? And he's still very much a soldier of the Empire. I want to see what happens in between the Bad Batch and then Rebels and why Wolf, Gregor, and Rex are living together. And I think you could do that in a Tales of. That's just me. Tales of the Underworld was really good. It will sustain me, and we are getting some really cool stuff with Star Wars. Obviously, as we said before, we are getting the Maul animated show in 2026, but I do certainly hope that they continue with more animated shows because I really feel like that's where Disney Star Wars shines. And I certainly hope we get another Tales of. Tales of the Underworld was unexpected. That wasn't really previously announced. We just got a trailer of it. So I'm assuming that next year around the same time, they'll do the same. I'm just telling Disney that this is a very good series. Continue on. But yeah, so I am going to end it here. Since my co-host had to bow out, um, these are just like sessions for us to yap about Star Wars primarily, other things, but let me know if you like the title Sithposting Live. We had quite a chuckle with it. Just play on words and all that. Please like and subscribe. We are trying to build this channel and build our podcast. As I said, I also am the content manager for Geek Vibes Nation. Please make sure you're following them. If not, because I have some interviews coming up with them, as well as the KJ Today Show. I frequently do the KJ Today Show live, kind of nerdy girls and everything. So please make sure you check all that out. I will link them down below as well. And yeah, thanks guys for joining us for the second episode of Sithposting Live, and we'll see you guys later.